We second guess ourselves because somewhere along the way, we started believing the myth that we had to get it perfect the first time. That if something wasn't flawless, it wasn't worthy. That if we didn't have every answer, every credential, every piece of the puzzle neatly lined up, then we didn't deserve to even start. But let me tell you right now, that's a lie. A big, loud, limiting lie. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be powerful. And those are two very different roads. One will keep you stuck in overthinking, and the other will launch you into action. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. It's the voice that says, wait until you're ready. It's the whisper that tells you someone else could do it better. And if you listen to it long enough, it becomes your inner language. You start delaying decisions, you second guess your instincts, and you begin trading your birthright, your boldness for approval, for safety, for small steps when you were made for giant leaps. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly. Every time you say, maybe later. Every time you say, I need more time. Every time you hide your light behind a checklist you'll never finish. I've watched this in my own life. Years ago, I had an idea for a book. I was passionate. I was clear on the message. I had story after story burning in my heart. But do you know what stopped me? Not a lack of skill, not a lack of purpose. I stopped myself because I thought, what if it's not good enough? I edited that first chapter for months. I rewrote sentences that were already beautiful. I delayed publishing because I wanted it to be perfect. And in the process, I forgot that my job wasn't to be perfect. It was to be authentic. It was to show up in truth. The moment I embraced that, everything changed. Let me tell you about a woman I met at one of my workshops. She had a dream to start a business helping teenage girls navigate confidence and identity. She had the experience, the passion, and the heart, but she hadn't started. When I asked her why, she said, I don't even have a logo yet. I don't have a website. I'm not ready. I looked her in the eye and I said, baby, those girls don't need a logo. They need you. See, we think the world is waiting for our polished version, but what they're really waiting for is our presence, our passion, and our permission to be real. And don't get it twisted. Being powerful doesn't mean having it all figured out. Being powerful means you move anyway. It means you speak even when your voice trembles. It means you apply for the position even if you only meet half the qualifications. Because you know what you bring to the table can't be measured on paper. Power isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about knowing you deserve to be in the room, even when you're silent. That kind of power doesn't come from perfection. It comes from permission. Your permission to show up as you are, not as you think you have to be. So I ask you right now, how many times have you delayed your own dream in the name of getting it perfect? How many times have you silenced your voice, skipped opportunities, or hid behind planning instead of doing? What would happen if today you decided that being real was enough? That your heart, your grit, your truth was enough? because it is. It always has been. If you wait to be perfect, you'll never move. If you wait to feel ready, you'll miss the boat. But if you move from a place of power, not power that says, I have everything, but power that says, I am enough, then nothing can stop you. Not fear, not doubt, not delay, not the voice in your head telling you you're not there yet. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Go to the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and say, I am powerful. I was not born to be perfect. I was born to make a difference. And then I want you to pick one thing, just one, that you've been delaying in the name of perfection. And I want you to start it. Not finish it, not perfect it. Just start it. Because when you start, you build momentum. And momentum is how dreams are born, not in perfection, in motion, in action, in truth. Let today be the day you give yourself permission to be imperfect and unstoppable. Second guessing yourself is a habit. It's not your identity. It's not your destiny. It's just a muscle you've exercised over and over again until it felt natural. And like any habit, it can be replaced because doubt is learned. But you know what else is learned? Courage. You can build courage just like you built that inner voice that says, I'm not sure, or maybe not yet. And the beautiful thing is, courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. Courage means you feel the fear, you hear the doubts, you see the risk, and you still choose to move. We grow up being taught to follow the rules, to color inside the lines, to wait our turn. And there's value in discipline, but there's a danger in training yourself to always hesitate, to always look for someone else to give you permission. That training over time morphs into a constant second guessing loop. You have an idea, you get excited, and then here it comes. What if I fail? What if it's not good enough? What will people think? That loop becomes a soundtrack. But baby, it's time to change the music. I remember watching my son run track in middle school. He had the heart of a lion, but he kept looking to the left and right during his races. He wanted to see how close the other boys were. And every time he turned his head, he slowed down. He lost seconds. I pulled him aside after one race and I said, baby, you can't run your best race looking at someone else's lane. You look forward, you breathe deep, and you just run. I watched him take that advice. Next race, he didn't look once. And he finished strong. He didn't come in first, but he came in his best. And that's what matters. So I want to ask you, how often are you looking left and right? How often are you comparing your beginning to someone else's middle? How many times have you watered down your own fire because someone else's light seemed brighter? Every time you compare, every time you hesitate, every time you check for validation, before trusting your own intuition, you're strengthening the habit of doubt. But just like you built that, you can unbuild it. And in its place, you can plant courage. Now, let's be clear, courage is not about being loud or fearless or bold in every moment. Courage is quiet. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed. When your heart is heavy, sometimes it looks like pressing send on an email you've been scared to write. Sometimes it looks like saying yes to an opportunity before you have the whole roadmap figured out. Courage doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up when you decide to show up. That's it. There was a young woman at one of my events who said she wanted to start a podcast. She'd been dreaming about it for 2 years. She even had the mic and the software, but she hadn't recorded a single episode. Why? Because she kept thinking she needed to be more articulate, more polished, more professional. I said to her, "Your voice is already powerful. You don't need it to be perfect. You just need it to be yours." That day, she recorded her first episode. It was raw. It was real. And it reached hundreds of people who needed her message. She stopped second guessing and she started creating. And you can too. But here's the key. You have to decide. You have to choose courage like you once chose hesitation. Every time you feel the familiar tug of doubt, I want you to pause, breathe, and say, "This is my old habit talking, but I choose differently now." Because transformation doesn't happen in a day. It happens in every day. Every single moment you override that fear voice with a truth voice, you're retraining your brain. You're reprogramming your narrative. You're writing a new story. So here's your challenge. Pick one area of your life where you've been hesitating. One place where doubt has been driving the car. Now I want you to take the keys back. I want you to do something courageous today. Not big, just brave. Speak up in a meeting. Reach out to that mentor. Post your story online. Say yes to something that scares you. And when that voice of doubt creeps in, you tell it, "You had your turn. I'm running my race now." Because you were never meant to live inside hesitation. You were built for movement, for growth, for momentum. And it doesn't start with confidence. Confidence is what shows up after you move. It starts with courage. So lean into it. Choose it. Practice it. And watch how fast your second guessing begins to fade. You already have enough. You just haven't claimed it yet. That's the truth most people never hear, and even fewer ever believe. When you second guess yourself, you're essentially telling the world, "I'm not ready," or worse, "I'm not enough." But I'm here to challenge that. I'm here to call out the lie that says you need more time, more degrees, more experience, more validation before you can move. The lie that says you're missing something. You are not missing anything. You are just missing the belief that what you already have is sufficient to start. We live in a culture that constantly tells us we need to upgrade, that something out there is the key to our success. More skills, more followers, more certificates, more polish. Keep piling things onto our to-do list, waiting for this elusive moment of enough. But that moment never comes because it's not about what's out there. It's about what's already in here, in your heart, in your voice, in your lived experiences, in your unique story. You have wisdom that no school could teach. You have insight that no seminar could manufacture. You have life lessons that were earned in pain and in joy. And those are more powerful than anything you'll ever find in a textbook. Let me tell you about a woman I met who wanted to become a life coach. She'd spent years helping friends and family. She had overcome addiction, rebuilt her life, and had a magnetic way of speaking. But she hadn't launched her business. She told me, "I don't have a degree in psychology. I don't have formal training." And I said, "Honey, you have something that can't be taught. You have testimony. You've walked through fire and came out carrying water for those still burning. That's more than enough." Her face lit up. That day, she stopped waiting. She stopped second guessing. And she started coaching people. People who needed her lived experience more than her list of qualifications. We get so caught up in what we think we lack that we fail to recognize what we already possess. Maybe you don't have the fanciest equipment, but you've got the voice. Maybe you don't have all the credentials, but you've got the story. Maybe you don't have the money yet, but you've got the mission. Those things matter. Those things work, but you have to believe it. No one else can do that for you. Do you know what it looks like when someone walks in the room owning their enoughness? They don't shrink. They don't apologize. They don't over-explain. They speak with clarity. They act with conviction. And the world takes notice. Not because they're the best. Not because they're flawless. But because they've claimed what's already inside them. They've made peace with where they are, even while moving toward where they're going. You're not stuck because you're unqualified. You're stuck because you're undecided about your worth. You're stuck because you've told yourself that your current self isn't worthy of the next level. And that's just not true. You are capable of beginning right now as you are. Not next year. Not when you feel more ready. Not when your ducks are in a row. Half of those ducks won't even stay in line. You don't need perfect alignment. You need decision. You need action. And you need trust, not in what you'll gain, but in what you already carry. So here's what I want you to do. Write down 5 things you know you're good at. Don't overthink it. Don't second guess it. Just write them. Maybe it's your ability to listen. Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your determination. Then write 3 experiences that shaped who you are, experiences that gave you strength, perspective, or passion. Now look at that list and realize this someone somewhere needs exactly what's on your paper. Not in 10 years. Not when you've done more. But now, you already have enough. The question is, when will you start using it? When will you stop doubting your voice, your story, your skills, your capacity? When will you stop waiting for permission to be brilliant? Because brilliance doesn't arrive in the mail. It gets activated the moment you decide to trust yourself. Not the fantasy version of yourself. The real, raw, growing, stretching version of you that's here right now. Stop second guessing what you were born to do. Start standing in the truth that your past prepared you, your heart qualifies you, and your future is already calling your name. You just need to answer it with a yes, with a step, with the declaration, I have what it takes right now. The cost of hesitation is almost always greater than the cost of failure. but we don't often measure it that way. We've been trained to fear failure like it's the worst thing that could happen. We're so terrified of falling on our face that we forget the pain of never even stepping forward. We second guess ourselves over and over again because we think if we hesitate long enough, maybe the risk will disappear. Maybe the path will become perfectly clear. Maybe someone will come and give us a sign that the time is right. But hesitation has a price. And for most people, that price is everything they ever wanted, but never reached for. Let me tell you something real. You can recover from failure. You can rebuild after a mistake. But it's far harder to reclaim time lost to indecision. You don't get those months back. You don't get those years you spent second guessing. And you definitely don't get back the version of you that once believed it was still possible. Every time you hesitate, every time you overthink, you are reinforcing the belief that the risk is bigger than the reward. But that's not true. The bigger risk is not stepping at all. I know this because I lived it. I waited years to publish my first book. I would write a few chapters, then delete them, write again, then stop. I told myself, it's not ready. But what I was really saying was, I'm not ready. I was scared of judgment. I was scared of rejection. I was scared it wouldn't be perfect. And so I hesitated. For 5 whole years, I held that book hostage in my mind. And guess what? When I finally published it, it wasn't perfect. But it changed lives. It changed my life. And the only thing standing between me and that moment was hesitation, not talent. Not timing. Just my own fear dressed up as logic. And isn't that what we do? We wrap our hesitation in respectable words. We call it being strategic or being cautious or waiting for the right moment. But deep down, it's fear. It's doubt. It's disbelief in our own ability to survive the fall. But baby, you've survived so much worse than failing at a dream. You've survived heartbreak. You've survived rejection. You've survived silence. You've survived your own inner critic. You're already proof that you're built to bounce back. So, why are you afraid of falling now? Let me ask you, what has your hesitation cost you? Think about the opportunities you talked yourself out of, the relationships you didn't fight for, the jobs you didn't apply to, the stage you didn't step on, the vision board you never moved on, the dream that's still a dream because you keep telling yourself, not yet. Now imagine what would be different in your life if you had acted on just one of those things. That's the real price of hesitation. I once coached a man who had an idea for a non-profit that would help young men coming out of juvenile detention. He had everything lined up. The plan, the passion, the network. But he kept delaying. He kept saying, what if I mess it up? What if I'm not the one? I told him, what if the reason you feel so scared is because this is your assignment? What if your hesitation is the final obstacle between you and your breakthrough? He finally launched. And in the first year, he helped 50 boys. 50. And every one of them could have been left waiting if he hadn't said yes to his vision. You can correct mistakes. You can learn from missteps. But you can't fix what you never even try. The most successful people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail fast, fail forward, and refuse to let hesitation freeze their dreams. Action is the great clarifier. Movement is the great teacher. You figure things out on the way, not before you begin. So here's what I want you to do. Take that thing you've been holding off on. Starting the business, making the call, writing the song, enrolling in the course, and give yourself a deadline. Not a soft deadline, a real one. Put it on the calendar. Tell someone about it. Make it public if you have to. Because if you don't put a clock on your hesitation, it will steal your life in quiet, invisible increments. You don't need more time. You need more movement. You don't need every answer. You need a decision. You don't need perfection. You need to risk starting. Because at the end of your life, it won't be the failures that haunt you. It'll be the chances you never took. The dreams you buried under, maybe later. The songs you never sang. The words you never wrote. The love you never pursued. Stop hesitating. Start moving, because motion creates momentum. And momentum changes lives, including yours. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. That may sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever learn. Every time you second guess yourself, doubt your value, or minimize your gifts, you're sending out a signal, and the world responds to that signal. You become the instruction manual. If you speak about yourself like you're small, people will treat you like you are. If you act like your time isn't valuable, people won't respect it. If you hesitate to own your worth, others won't recognize it. Not because they're bad people, but because you showed them where the bar is. So many of us walk through and people would see us, appreciate us, respect us, pay us, love us a little more deeply. But we forget to check in and ask, are we doing those things for ourselves first? Are we showing up for ourselves with the same energy, the same admiration, the same love that we crave from others? Because the truth is, no one is going to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. No one's going to see your light if you keep hiding it behind fear and false humility. And nobody's going to consistently treat you better than you treat yourself. I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I was invited to speak at an event. I was excited, honored. But when they asked me my speaking fee, I panicked. I thought, what if they say no? I didn't want to lose the opportunity. So I offered them a discounted rate, far below what I was worth. They said yes instantly, but the entire experience felt off. They didn't respect my time. They didn't promote my talk. They treated me like I was doing them a favor, like I should be grateful just to be there. And I realized it wasn't their fault, it was mine. I taught them how to treat me. I set the bar too low. That day, I promised myself never again. I decided to show up in a way that demanded the same respect I was giving to others. And that's what I want for you. I want you to walk into every room, whether it's a boardroom, a relationship, a classroom, or a conversation, knowing your value, and not just knowing it, but embodying it, owning it, living it out in every word you speak and every choice you make. Because when you honor your own worth, others rise to meet that energy. They see you differently. They treat you differently because you are teaching them with every move you make. You might be thinking, Lisa, it's hard. I've been second guessing myself for so long. I don't even know where to start. And that's okay. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to your own inner dialogue. Notice when you downplay your achievements. Notice when you say yes out of guilt instead of alignment. Notice when you stay quiet when your heart wants to speak. Those are the moments when you're showing the world what you believe about yourself. And every time you catch it, you have an opportunity to rewrite the script. There was a woman I coached who was in a relationship where she constantly felt overlooked. She did everything, supported her partner, managed the household, cared for the kids, but felt invisible. As we worked together, she realized that she had been neglecting herself in every area. She stopped doing the things that brought her joy. She didn't ask for what she needed. She put herself last, always. So she began making small changes, treating herself with more love, setting boundaries, reclaiming time for herself. And do you know what happened? Her partner started noticing, started stepping up, started respecting her space, her voice, her time. Because she changed first, her energy shifted, her self-treatment improved, and the relationship followed. So here's what I want you to do. Make a list of 5 ways you can treat yourself better, starting today. It could be how you speak to yourself, how you feed your body, how you protect your time, how you say no with love, how you invest in your growth. Choose one and commit to practicing it every single day for the next week. Watch what happens. Watch how people start responding to the energy you carry. You're no longer asking for respect. You're showing people how to give it to you. You are the standard. You are the mirror. You are the first example of how others should treat you. And when you stop second guessing yourself, you start teaching people a different lesson. One that says, I am worthy. I am powerful. I am enough. And I will act like it. The world takes its cue from you. So raise the bar and watch everything around you rise to meet it. Fear is going to ride with you, but it doesn't get to drive. That truth is something we all have to learn if we want to break the cycle of second guessing ourselves. Because here's what happens. We wait for the fear to go away. We think, once I'm not scared anymore, I'll speak up. I'll take the leap. I'll finally say yes to that opportunity. But that day doesn't come. The fear doesn't disappear. And the more we wait for it to vanish, the more power we give it over our lives. Fear becomes the driver, and we just sit in the passenger seat, watching our dreams speed past us. But you don't have to let fear steer your choices. You can feel it and still move forward. That's courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in the presence of it. It's action even when your heart is pounding. It's speaking up even when your voice shakes. It's saying yes, even when your knees are weak. And the beautiful thing is, the more you act in spite of fear, the less control it has over you. It becomes background noise instead of the main voice in your head. I remember the first time I stepped onto a stage in front of 3,000 people. My palms were sweating. My throat felt tight. I kept thinking, what if I forget my words? What if they don't like me? What if I mess this whole thing up? That fear was loud, but I reminded myself that I wasn't on that stage for me. I was there to serve. I had a message to deliver. I had truth to speak. So I didn't wait for the fear to go away. I walked out with it. I delivered that message with fear riding in the back seat, not hiding in the wings, waiting for some magical, fearless moment. And do you know what happened? After the first few minutes, the fear faded. It always does. Fear is loudest at the beginning. It tries to stop you before you start. But once you move, once you act, fear loses its grip. That's how momentum works. But you only discover that when you're willing to go through the discomfort. So often we think we need to fight fear. We try to suppress it, ignore it, deny it. But fear is not the enemy. It's a signal. It's letting you know you're stepping into something meaningful. Fear shows up when you're about to do something that stretches you, something that matters. So instead of trying to eliminate fear, you learn to manage it. You learn to keep it in its place. You acknowledge it. I see you. I hear you. And then you act anyway. I once worked with a young man who had a passion for music. He wrote songs in secret, but never shared them. He was afraid of being judged, afraid of being told he wasn't good enough. So his fear sat behind the wheel for years. One day, I challenged him to post just one of his songs online, not because it would be perfect, but because it was time for him to stop letting fear call the shots. He posted it. And guess what? People loved it. Not because it was polished, but because it was real. And in that moment, he realized his fear had been lying to him the whole time. That's what fear does. It exaggerates. It predicts the worst. It distorts reality. But the moment you push past it, you see the truth. You're stronger than you think. You're more capable than you've believed. And most of the time, the scenario you've been scared of never even happens. So here's your invitation. Stop waiting to be unafraid. That day may never come. Start choosing to act in the presence of fear. Let it ride if it must, but don't hand it the keys. Don't let it make your decisions. Don't let it choose your silence, your delay, your smallness. You are allowed to be scared and still be powerful. You are allowed to be uncertain and still take the next step. Tonight, I want you to do something your fear has been keeping you from. Make the call. Apply for the role. Sign up for the class. Record the video. Have the conversation. Not because the fear is gone, but because your future matters more than your fear. Because your purpose is louder than your doubt. Because your calling cannot wait for comfort. You are not weak because you feel fear. You are human. But you are powerful because you can feel that fear and still move your feet. Let fear sit in the back seat if it must. But don't you dare let it touch the wheel. This is your life. and only you get to drive. The final thing I need you to understand, the truth that will change everything, is that your voice matters. Your story matters. Your presence matters. And when you keep second guessing yourself, you're not just holding back your dreams, you're withholding your impact. You are here to shift something in the world. You are not an accident. You're not a background character. You are the answer to someone's prayer, the inspiration someone's been waiting on, the guide someone doesn't even know they need yet. But none of that happens if you keep silencing yourself. See, when you second guess yourself, you shrink. You downplay your gifts. You water down your opinions. You hesitate to show up in rooms fully. And eventually, you teach the world to overlook you. That is not humility. That is not grace. That is self-erasure. And you don't serve anyone by dimming your light. Your light was made to shine. Your voice was made to be heard. Your story, your journey, your lessons, all of it has value. But only if you stop editing yourself out of your own life. I had a client once, a brilliant woman who had overcome abuse, addiction, and depression. She had rebuilt her life from scratch, raised her children on her own, and created a thriving business. But she never told anyone her full story. She thought, who am I to share this? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not famous. I'm just a regular person. And I said, that's exactly why you must share. Because people don't need perfect. They need real. So she began sharing little pieces of her truth, first in a blog, then in community events. And one day, after she spoke, a young woman came up to her with tears in her eyes and said, because you told your truth, I feel like I can survive mine. That's the power you carry. That's what you rob the world of when you doubt yourself into silence. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be famous to be impactful. You don't have to be flawless to be inspiring. You just have to be willing to show up, to speak up, to trust that your life has taught you something worth sharing, to know that your presence in the room, whether it's a boardroom, a classroom, a living room, can shift the energy and elevate the moment, simply because you are standing in your truth. And let me tell you something else. People will try to make you question yourself. They will project their fears onto you. They will tell you you're too much or not enough. They'll say, ooh, does she think she is? And when they do, I want you to answer with everything in you. I am exactly who I was born to be. Say it with your chest. Say it with your soul. You are not obligated to shrink for anyone's comfort. The world will adjust to your authenticity or it won't. And that's not your business. You were not meant to blend in. You were meant to stand up, to stand out, to stand in your worth unapologetically. But that takes choice. That takes consistency. That takes you waking up every day and saying, today, I choose me. Today, I trust me. Today, I listen to the sound of my own truth louder than the voice of my doubts. Because doubt is always going to whisper. It's always going to try to negotiate with your greatness. But your job is to stop letting it win. I want you to remember this. Every time you choose to trust yourself, You're rewriting your story. You're telling your younger self, we made it. We're okay. We don't have to hide anymore. You're telling your future self, we're building something worth waking up for. And you're telling the world, I'm not waiting for permission anymore. I belong here. So let this be your moment. Let this be the time you draw the line. No more waiting. No more shrinking. No more apologies for existing boldly. You don't need to have all the answers to move. You just need to believe that your voice is worthy, your presence is powerful, and your truth is enough. Show up. Speak out. Stand tall. The world is waiting, not for perfection, but for you. And I promise you this, when you stop second guessing yourself, you start living. You start loving deeper. You start leading louder. You start leaving the kind of legacy that doesn't fade when the lights go down. You become unforgettable, not because you tried to impress, but because you dared to be real. That's power. That's freedom. That's what happens when you say yes to yourself. So stop asking for permission. Stop wondering if you're enough. You are. You always were. Now act like it.